Happy Sunday, everyone. Was not planning on doing a Facebook Live on Sunday, but every time I get excited and stoked, I want to share that energy with you, my friends of the world. So Anthony Frank, I want to give you a heads up and shout out. Anthony has been following some of my Facebook Lives, and he actually posted one of my quotes. So for those of you who post my quotes, I'll give you extra love. And this is the power and beauty of life. He put a quote, posted it on his Facebook Live, and said that it's not just about motivation, it's about methodology. And it's true. I meet a lot of these coaches, these trainers, these speakers, these success people who talk about their motivation, like a Tony Robbins, although he probably has some methodology. My point is, be very careful of people that are selling you motivation, because motivation is a feeling, whereas methodology is a fact-based, empirical evidence, science-studied system. And as I talk to friends like Marco Corelli, who has a nonprofit called Nanotechnology or OmniNano, he has a PhD in biochemistry from USC, and he said how scientists discover things, but engineers create products. So you want to find people, coaches, strategists that actually have the more of an engineering understanding and mindset where it's a step-by-step process. So since he put this quote on Facebook, I thought I'd share with you a little bit about my methodology and how I go about helping people. Now, one of my mentors, she is actually, I keep doing this all the time. I don't have my book in hand. So many of you may already know I have this book I wrote called Big Game Hunting, Networking with Billionaires, Executives and Celebrities, where I teach you how to network at the highest levels, because success isn't really about who you know, it's about who you want to know. And the best way to change your life is to change your relationship. So one of the quotes in my book, one of the testimonials, is a friend and colleague of mine. Her name is Angie Chin. And she said she's the former CFO of Coffee Bean. So for those of you who like Starbucks, Coffee Bean is a competitor of Starbucks. But she's pretty much said that Christopher is a friend of mine and a colleague for many years. He loves connecting people. He strives to teach and inspire others to become better leaders. So go on this learning journey with him. So I want to share a learning lesson I learned from Angie Chin, who is the former CFO of Coffee Bean, which she's honestly one of the smartest people I've ever met as a businesswoman, originally from Singapore. So here's the thing about methodology and motivation, right? Again, it's great to be motivated. Motivation is a feeling. You know, you look at Anthony Robbins, the one thing I look at him is like, he's always like, all right, everyone, you gotta be excited. And you know, I get that point, you know, when I'm on stage, I do amp up my energy levels, but at the core, clapping your hands, all that physiology, it's great, but it's about methods, it's about strategy, it's about systems, it's about a step-by-step system. And so Angie Chin, who again is the former CFO of Coffee Bean, which is Starbucks competitor. So when you find information and advice from people, just be very careful. Don't just listen to people because they tell you something. Listen to people who have experience. If you're going to hire a speaking coach, let's say of myself, I'm speaking for 16 years, giving over 1,000 presentations globally, then you want to hire someone that has experience, not just motivation. So when Anthony Frank put that quote up, I thought I'd create this Facebook Live about methodology and not just motivation. And so Angie Chin is one of my mentors, one of my friends, and she pretty much explained it in a very simple two-step process, 2 words. The first word is intention, second word is competency. So let me just first give a shout out to everyone on this Facebook Live. Gene, thanks so much for watching. Yasina, thanks, looking forward for you to join our GPS program. We just signed up 3 people in the last 5 days. Giselle, I think you're interested as well. Let me know if you want to follow up. Ken Dubner, thanks for watching. I already gave Ken some tips. George, thanks for watching. So here's the difference between motivation and methodology, according to Angie Chin, who is a former CFO of Coffee Bean, someone I deeply respect. And so she pretty much talked about 2 things. Those 2 things are intention and competency. Competency is the same thing as methodology, but intention is, imagine four quadrants, right? So let's say, to visualize, bottom quadrant, quadrant 1, is you don't have intention, nor do you have competency, which is people who are aimless, distracted, bored, don't have any purpose in life, so they're pretty much don't have an intention to do anything and aren't competent in anything because they're skating through. People that I meet that are very wealthy sometimes fall in that category where why do they have an intention when their mommy and dad gave them everything? Why should they need to build skill sets or competencies and methodologies when everything is given to them? I see this also in certain very attractive women that I meet sometimes, where they have built up their facade and their substance based only on the style and on what they look like, which I love looking at hot girls, but they haven't really focused on the competency, the methodology, because they don't need to, frankly. Sometimes if you're being approached 6,000 times, why do you need to develop any competency, right? So the first quadrant, bottom left-hand side, so imagine 4 quadrants, bottom left-hand side is no intention and no competency. The second quadrant is you have an intention to do something, but no competency, or little competency. Now by intention is like, okay, you think of, I want to be a book writer, I want to be a speaker, I want to be a songwriter, I want to travel the world. Most of us have intentions. Some of them are low, some of them are high, but as Michelangelo once said, the greatest danger for most of us is not that we aim too high and miss it, but we aim too low and reach it. So many of us have an intention, but frankly, it's not high enough, it's not bold enough, right? So you have an intention, but you don't have competency. I see that all the time in Hollywood, where when people say, oh, do what you love, Chris, and the money will follow. Sorry, that's not true, because I've met thousands of singer-songwriters and screenwriters and producers. They all have an intention of doing great things, but they don't have the competency. They don't have the methodology. I was one of those people too. I at one point was a singer-songwriter. I've written hundreds of songs, gotten placements on TV, film, radio, corporate jingles, and I had an intention, but at the time I didn't have the competency, right? So the second quadrant is you have the intention, but not the competency. And the third quadrant on the bottom right-hand side, and I'm just going to have you visualize, this is actually my name in Chinese, but the bottom competency, the third quadrant is you have no intention, but high competency. You know, I have a friend, really bright guy, he's a lawyer friend, and he went to Yale undergrad and Harvard Law School. So he went to Yale undergrad, finished in 3.5 years, and he went to Harvard Law School. And I'm always curious. I always want to learn. I always want to learn from people. I didn't go to Ivy League. I went to a state school. I got into NYU, New York University in New York City, where I wanted to go for business, where I'm from, but the tuition was insanely expensive. I didn't even apply to Ivy League schools because at the time I had a mindset and I actually didn't have the competency to do well on SAT tests, right? So I asked my friend Kevin, I'm like, the dude went to Yale undergrad, Harvard Business School, 2 of the best schools in the world. And I asked him, what are some things you notice on campus at Yale or Harvard, right? And he said that, he just met a lot of bright people that didn't know what to do with their competency, meaning they might have literally created a guitar from scratch or is a concert pianist and is performing in Carnegie Hall. So they had this insane competency to study in academics, but sometimes they couldn't even tie their shoe. So they had this amazing competency, but their intention to do things wasn't always there. I'm not saying all of them, I'm just saying when you go to a school like Harvard or Yale, their competency is so high that sometimes if you're a great speaker, if you're a great writer, if you're a great scientist, then, what's your intention? Because sometimes when I meet people that are very, very, very knowledgeable and wise, they forget that you have to still pick one thing and drive home that one point, drive home that one lane, drive that one specific direction you want to head towards. So in my case, I can do many things. I can speak, I can write, I can sing, I can sell, but right now my intention is to inspire entrepreneurs, professionals to be a speaker. Now some of you might already want to be a speaker, some of you don't even know that you should be a speaker, because if you go to any networking event, you should position yourself as a speaker, because we waste so much time going to networking events where you give all these business cards away, you get business cards and they go nowhere. But if you position yourself as a speaker, you'll have more leads, more clients, more referrals, more investors, more status, more elevation, everything if you're a speaker. Now getting back to the point, third quadrant is you have massive competency, massive skill set, massive talent, but you don't have an intention, that real deep drive. We often talk about passion. Oh, you're going to be passionate. Steve Jobs says you have to be passionate, but they don't really talk about intensity, because the intensity is what allows you to be committed. You can have the passion and do things, but anyone can be passionate. You have to have an intensity where every day you're waking up, every morning, every afternoon, every night, where I was talking to a potential client at 2:30 on Saturday night. I didn't want to because she's in Hong Kong, but I was up already. So she wanted to set up a call, but I have an intensity and a commitment to help my clients, to help my friends and colleagues to do really well in life, because I don't meet enough people that do what they say they're going to do. I'm not perfect in any means, but have a clear intention. So again, just to kind of do a recap, bottom left hand side quarter is those who have no intention and no competency. People oftentimes who I meet that are very, very wealthy, their mom and dad gave them everything, so they have no intention to do anything because they've been giving their home, giving their car at age 16. Imagine getting a BMW, 2 of them by age 16. Imagine a young girl I used to coach. She was literally 7 years old, and she said, how many homes do you own? Assuming that everyone owns homes. And then she said, oh, I got a new car. It's not her car, it's her mom's car. And I'm like, oh, what kind of car did you get? And she says, S-Class. Like literally, she didn't even say Mercedes-Benz. She just said S-Class because that's the highest class of Mercedes-Benz. So, a lot of times when I meet certain people that are very, very wealthy, they don't really have clear intentions because they don't need to have intentions to do anything because they've been given everything. And they don't always have a lot of competency because of the fact that they don't have to really move or work, right? So I'm not saying all wealthy people. Again, I meet people that are wealthy that do have intention and competency, but it comes back to the mom and dad. That's the first quadrant. Second quadrant is you have intention but no competency or little competency, which is the vast majority of people. The third quadrant are those that have a massive competency, a massive skill set, massive talent, but don't have intention to do things. And then the last quadrant, the fourth quadrant, the top quadrant, is those that have an intention to do things and have a competency. And that's the rarest breed. So going back to Anthony Franco when he posted my quote about how it's not just about motivation, it's about methodology. I see some of these people that are, these online coaching programs and these self-help people, these gurus, where they're selling the motivation, they're selling the feel good, they're like offering these things, which is fine, because if you feel motivated today, but oftentimes this whole NLP, you're pretty much modeling and mirroring some of their emotions, and then afterwards they feel good, you sell them a product, and then they go nowhere. Whereas me, though I'm grateful that people say I'm motivated, but they're motivated by my speeches and my programs and these Facebook Lives, I want to give you the methodology. And so when you meet people, focus on people that give you the methodology and the step-by-step process. So for instance, if I say, if you want to speak better, you got to focus on 3 specific things. You got to focus on not just the words, because the words are only 7%, the body language and the tone of voice is 93%. So if I'm giving you very specific steps on how to be a speaker, I'm not just saying, yeah, you gotta be a speaker. It's exciting to be a speaker. You can get paid to be a speaker. You can inspire the world. You can travel the world. I spent 30,000 miles almost in January speaking at 8 countries, 8 cities, 4 countries, and I gave 5 speeches. It was so exciting. So again, I'm amping up my energy, right? But if I say the methodology to be a great speaker are 3 specific things. And this is where you want to meet coaches, mentors, systems and programs that give you specific steps, not motivation, but steps, process, strategy, methodology. That takes a little more skill set. So if you want to be a better speaker, focus on 3 things. One is words are only 7%. If I say, I love cookie and cream ice cream, those are the words. But if I change my tone and the feeling of the words, it increases the success rate by 40%. So if I say, I love cookie and cream ice cream, I love cookie and cream ice cream, right? You can see that I'm feeling more, right? But if I amp it up even more and give you the body language, so the words are, I love cookie and cream and ice cream, it's just monotone. But if I add the tone and feeling, which is 40% more, that's 47% effective, then it's like, I love cookie and cream and ice cream. You notice the tone and voice, right? But lastly, it's the body language. Where the body language is over 50% of the success of a speaker. So if I incorporate the words, the tone and feeling, and the body language, now I'm like, I love cookie and cream and ice cream. I love cookie and cream and ice cream, okay? Now, that's 3 specific steps, 3 methods for you to be a better speaker. I'm not just motivating you by making you sound excited because maybe you're bored right now. Maybe you're looking at, if I'm in Beverly Hills, it's like a rainy day, who cares? Maybe you're in the East Coast and you're tired, you're scared, whatever it might be. Those are emotions. Don't allow your emotions to dictate your future success. Emotions are fleeting. Am I always amped up and excited and happy? No. But I'm always very purposeful regardless of how I feel, because it's not about how you feel, it's what you feel for that's important. It's not about how you feel at the moment, it's about what you feel for. If my intention is to inspire 1,000 entrepreneurs in the next 2 years to impact 1 billion people, that's a clear what I feel for, a purpose, a mission, a vision, okay? So in terms of the methodology to be a great speaker, three things, right? I'm giving you the methodology because most people have an intention to be a great speaker, but they're not a great speaker because they don't understand the methodology. It's words, it's tone of feeling, and it's body language. And you can get this, oh, I hear what you're saying, Chris, but I meet people all the time, including executives. I literally emailed Elon Musk, Mark Benioff from Salesforce, and Sean Parker. All three of them are billionaires. Sean Parker was the founder of, founding president of Facebook. Mark Benioff is the founder of Salesforce. And Elon Musk, as you know, is the founder of 5 companies, SpaceX, Tesla, and PayPal. I emailed all three of them. I'm like, dude, you inspire millions already, but you might want to consider being a better speaker. And I quoted Warren Buffett when Warren Buffett said, public speaking will literally be an asset you can use for the next 50 to 60 years. And so just keep that in mind where when you want to start amping up your game, it's not enough to have an intention. You know, when I meet people that read The Secret, I believe in some level of attracting things, but you can't just sit on your ass at home and attract wealth. You can't just sit on your butt at home and attract a hot girl or a hot guy, whatever you're into, right? You can have the intention, right? But the competency is you have to build up a certain demeanor. You have to build up a certain success. You have to actually learn where to meet people, right? So stop focusing on the intention of doing things and hoping this intention, like when I read these books about Eckhart Tolle and Deepak Chopra, it's just so funny to me because here are people that make millions of dollars telling you to have a law of effortless like Deepak Chopra, right? And yet it takes a lot of effort to be a speaker. It takes a lot of effort to write a book. You know, my book didn't just effortlessly appear. So what I find interesting is that some of these people that are selling you things, making millions of dollars, they want to have you be all at peace with yourself. But if you're at peace with yourself, you know, people that are revolutionaries and visionaries, Gandhi was not, he didn't just effortlessly become a world leader. You know, Gandhi would actually walk 200 plus miles. It's called the Salt March back in 1929 to defy the British monarch at the time. He walked over 200 miles to the Dandy Sea to make a statement where he said, salt is free. Salt is part of our world. And so Gandhi doesn't effortlessly get there. He actually walked by example. When he wanted to set an example, he would cut his own hair. He would make his own clothes. And so when I hear people that talk about this effortlessness and this world of attraction, it's like, that's cool to have a mindset. That's an intention. That's a great intention. But the reason why you're not more successful is because you don't have the competency, the strategy, the methodology, and you're pretty much stuck in traffic all the time. And if you have mentors and coaches and strategists, they're on that carpooling, right? So I want to remind you, I just gave you a methodology to be a great speaker. You want to be a great speaker? Focus not just on your words, because those are only 7% of your success. It's 40% body and tone. Tone and feeling. And lastly, it's body language, okay? That's why I expressly always amp up my voice when I'm speaking, because if I'm in front of 1,000 people, I'm not going to be like talking like this and saying, hey everyone, it's great to meet you here, and I'm excited to talk to you about how I can help you motivate yourself, and because motivation is important, I'm telling you, Eckhart Tolle really motivates me with his writing. So I'm going to give you one final point about methodology, about being a great speaker, because I'm all about adding value, not just saying it, but doing it, right? So there's another guy that wrote a book called Carmine Gallo, who another guy, he writes a book about Talk Like TED. TED Conference is one of the premier conferences in the world. I set a vision in my mind. Again, I have an intention to speak at TED. I'm putting that out there, right? But the competency is, I already have that. But the methodology is, I already applied 2 or 3 times. I've got rejected, but I don't care. I'm going to keep applying, right? So he talks about in Talks Like TED, which is a book that codifies how people are successful speakers on the TED Conference. And the irony is, again, he doesn't speak well either. So he wrote a book about how do you speak well, and he doesn't speak well. I've watched some interviews with him. So that doesn't mean you can't learn from someone like Carmine Gallo, who I respect him because he wrote a book about that. But I wouldn't hire him as a speaking coach because I don't think he's that dynamic. Now, granted, maybe you don't want someone who's dynamic, okay? But if you look at the people that have most inspired the world, they were dynamic speakers. You look at someone like Nelson Mandela, Oprah Winfrey, John F. Kennedy, all these people had this dynamic inspiration in them, okay? So getting back to Carmine Gallo's book, he references Aristotle. Aristotle is a famous philosopher over 2,000 years ago. Even him, he said, you know what? 3 processes to be a great speaker, a great communicator, a great salesperson. You have to understand ethos, logos, and pathos. Ethos is credibility. 10% of your credibility is if I tell you I used to work for American Express at 40 Wall Street, New York City, developing business strategies for our biggest clients in the world. If I tell you I didn't just write one book that became a #1 bestseller on Amazon, I've written 5 and published 3 to help clients with 30. If I tell you I've spoken over 1,000 presentations or given over 1,000 presentations to a global audience from 30 countries, so that's my credibility. That's only 10% of your effectiveness as a communicator. 25% is facts and figures. Now this is what I find most lacking in these self-help gurus. This is what I find most lacking in these success coaches. This is what I find most lacking in people, including my clients, frankly, who don't have what to back up their opinion. Now, it's not my opinion that networking is the #1 best predictor for career success. That's not my opinion. That's based on empirical evidence by a guy named Ron Burt, and this is where you have to Google it. This is why books always have references at the end of their books, because it gives you an ability to research what they're talking about, because this is my opinion. Ron Burt studies network science. He found that networking is the #1 best predictor for career success. Another guy named Michael Williams, who's an award-winning writer, wrote about this in a Forbes article. So if you literally Google networking, Ron Burt, Forbes article, you'll see that networking is studied, and so it's not my opinion that networking is important. This is based on empirical evidence, okay? So keep that in mind. So the logos part is the facts and figures. That's 25%. So if communication skills is based on words, tone of voice, and body language, it's also about your ethos, which is your credibility, your logos, which is the facts and figures, which is, again, you have to reference empirical study stuff. If one of my clients named Dragana, who's one of our gifters, she's all about meditation, but I'm like, Dragana, you have to start putting research-backed stuff. What do? I literally had her Google, meditation research-based findings, and they found Harvard researchers have actually found that meditation lowers your stress levels, lowers your cortisol levels, increase your sense of concentration, clarity, and focus. And so even though I've been meditating for over 20 years, and meditation is an Eastern thing, I was born and raised in New York City, but again, meditation is from the East, the Far East, India, China, Japan, all those people do meditation, right? So even though for years and years and years, Westerners didn't believe in meditation or acupuncture or some of these more Eastern things, now they have empirically studied it, right? So you tell me, I'm not just telling you meditation is helpful or important. That's not my opinion. That's based on Harvard research studies that has proven that meditation helps. That's the logos part of effectiveness that Aristotle talked about. Lastly, though, the most important thing are sharing stories. Pathos is 65% of your effectiveness as a communicator, which is, if you don't share stories, why would someone want to hear you? Stories are 22 times more memorable than facts, okay? Stories are 22 times more memorable than facts. So if you just take this one video that I'm sharing for free, by the way, if you take this one video that I'm sharing for free, you already know how to be a great speaker. So my program, GPS, the Gifted Professional Speaker Program, is not just about teaching how to be a great speaker. I'm teaching you how to get paid as a speaker. I'm teaching you how to get paid $10,000, $20,000. How do you elevate your brand so you're featured on Forbes? How do you travel to conferences like in Jamaica, where the Prime Minister of Jamaica was speaking there? How can I travel to Atlanta soon, where a global speaker is? President Clinton has spoken there. But my point is, you have to understand the methodology. So be very wary and careful about people who sell you motivation. People tell me I'm a motivation speaker. That's great, right? But I'm teaching methodology. Step-by-step process. In this one video, which is free, I've already taught you, save your money and don't hire a speaking coach, because a speaking coach will teach you how to speak well, which is important, but I just showed you 6 things based on empirical evidence, your tone of voice, words, body language, then it's ethos, logos, pathos. These are things that I oftentimes just tell my clients, so you don't need to know how to speak well. I just taught you 6 points, right? Now it's about the business side, which that's what you are investing in, which is my program, which is GPS, which is the methodology, which again, I'm so grateful people are motivated, but I just get really irked sometimes where I just see people that are just a bit disingenuous, where they talk like this and they're really excited, which is really cool, right? So I want to get you amped up and excited so you have a great week. But beyond the motivation, there's no methodology, because they haven't really spent the time to study it, research it, and as what Malcolm Gladwell, one of my favorite authors, talked about the 10,000 hour rule. And here's the thing, Malcolm Gladwell didn't even invent the 10,000 rule. He just talked about it, and a psychologist based out of, I think, the University of Florida studied it, because he's the one that found the actual 10,000 hours of mastery, where if you spend that 10,000 hours, you'll master a certain craft, the competency part, right? So I have easily spent over $10,000 as a speaker, as a business writer. So that's the competency part, which is why I can tell someone in a minute, how do you be a great speaker? How do you brand yourself? Because people have not spent the time to actually understand how to speak well, how do you sell, how do you brand yourself. And so I encourage all of you to focus less on people motivating you, which is cool, and focus more on the methodology, where I talked about how Angie Chin, who's one of my mentors, who was a former CFO of Coffee Bean, talked about how you can have the best intentions in the world. I meet people that have great intentions, but 99% of people who fail lack the competency. 99% of people I meet have the intention of doing great things, of writing a book, of being a speaker, of traveling the world, of creating a business. They have the intention, but they lack the competency. The competency is the step-by-step strategy. The competency is the methodology that I teach in my program. And of course, I'm going to charge for it. You know, if you have value, you should charge for it. People that want my program for free or want scholarship, I'm like, sorry. Every single thing I've done in life, I've made an investment of my time and money. And if you don't make investments in your time and money, you will never grow, you'll never learn, you'll never succeed. Every single person, it's the law of nature, right? So make sure you focus on people that offer you the competency and the methodology and the strategies, because without that, you're going to be in the same spot you are right now, next week, next month, next year, next 10 years, and it doesn't have to be that way. So push aside how you feel about things. Focus on people that have the methodology, which is why you have to start surrounding yourself with people that have proven what you want to do. Look at what their accomplishments are. If you ask me, Chris, I want to write a book, well, I can help you because I've written 5, published 3, and helped 30 clients at least with theirs. And I didn't just write a book. I published the book. So literally, when you look at a movie and you see the Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie, at the credits of the movie, you have hundreds of people that build up the movie. Well, a book is the same way. Writing a book is not that hard. Publishing a book is a lot harder because there's thousands of deals down to the font, the style, the graphics, the pixels, the margins, the type of paper, the publishing aspects, the ISBN code, the retail price. Like, that's all the competency that I learned over years and years and years and years and years, okay? I'm going to end with one final quote and one final person. Michelangelo is one of the most inspiring people that I know, that I admire. And he said one time that when people look at him and say that at 26 he sculpted David. If you ever have a chance, go to Florence, Italy. Go to where they have the David statue, and it's one of the most majestic and beautiful experiences of your life, because you walk down this long corridor and you'll see moldings of statues that he kind of practiced and tested on, right? At the very end of the far corridor, you'll see the statue of David perched up on top of a pedestal, and there David is. And there's a glass encasing, because people at one point, David used to actually be outside, so they would spray paint it, because a lot of people don't appreciate what they have. But that statue has lasted 500 years. He created that when he was about 26, about I think 1506. It's been about 500 years. But you know, when people look at Michelangelo and look at David, look at all the works, Michelangelo often says, they wouldn't really be that impressed if they knew how much time I spent doing the work I do. And so, like anything in life, if you want to be a master at anything, you got to put in the time. I remember when I first started speaking, I would literally spend an hour on 1 minute of speech. I'll stress that again. When I first started speaking 16 years ago, I would literally spend 1 hour on 1 minute of speech. So as much as now I know how to speak well, I can inspire, I can motivate. I've been told numerous times by people like a John Paul DeJoria, who's a billionaire who created Patron Tequila and John Paul Mitchell Hair Care. I've been told by Adrian Grenier, who was on Entourage, saying that I did a better job than him. I've been told by Diana Nyad, who's the only person in human history to swim from Cuba to Miami at age 64. Now she's, I think, 67. But my point is, I would spend an hour to do 1 minute of speech when I first started. And for all of you who want to be a better speaker, want to be a business person, just don't compare yourself with me where I am now. Compare yourself with me, or actually compare yourself with how you were yesterday, because my first paid speech was $50. Though now I charge $30,000, my first paid speech was $50 at an all-black Pentecostal church in Stamford, Connecticut, 16 years ago. And it was serendipitous because one of my colleagues at American Express asked me to speak there. I spoke, did a pretty good job, and he gave me a $50 check. I'll never forget that. So just keep that in mind. Wherever you are in life, you can do better. but you can't just have an intention. You can't just read a book about The Secret. You can't just read an Eckhart Tolle book and feel all peaceful, because peaceful doesn't get you profit. You know, you have to have a peaceful mind, that core, but competency, methodology, strategy will get you when you go. And 99% of people I meet will not be as successful as they deserve to be because they lack the competency. And the best way to get the competency is to hire a coach, hire a trainer, read books, watch interviews, and just surround yourself with people that are doing things, not the talkers, but the doers. Keep that in mind. Remember the intention, remember the competency, focus on that. Thank you again, Anthony Frankel, for posting that quote. And if any of you want me to share anything about life, because since I read so much, if you really do want to be a global speaker, you have to speak on a large swath, a cornucopia, an eclectic mix of different things. And since the things that I often say isn't my opinion, it's based on reading, research, all the things that I've told you, then I can talk about meditation, I can talk about speaking, I can talk about business, because of the fact that not only have I done a lot of these things, I read about these things too, okay? So, have a great day. I'm going to give a final props to the people that I've watched. Jean, Yasena, Giselle, Ken, George, Assam, Elaine, welcome to our group. Elaine is based in Idaho. Elaine just signed up last week. Elaine has been an entrepreneur for 16 years. She's biracial, so already I can tell Elaine's going to be great because she has a great story. She has a great passion. She has great genuineness. Yes, she went to an Anthony Robbins event, so she got motivated, but then she knew that she needed to understand the methodology, which was why she signed up for my program. So Elaine, I give you props. If anyone wants to learn more about how to be a great successful business owner, she's based in Idaho. Check her out. Anthony Frankel, thanks so much for inspiring me to even do this Facebook Live video. Leah Manana, thank you all for watching. So all of you, have a great Sunday, have a great week. One final tip, if you want to be more successful, start planning out your future. Don't allow your schedule to be a master of you. You should be the master of your schedule. Have a great day, a great Sunday, and a great life. Bye, everyone.